everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast series, the Spotlight Sessions here at High Level. In these sessions, we showcase top leaders in the world of marketing and sales. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Nathan Hirsch, the founder of EcomBalance. And EcomBalance is a monthly bookkeeping services for agencies and SaaS companies. They help get the foundation started for building up the right processes and then maintain those processes as the business is growing. Fun fact about Nathan, back in 2016, he started up a VA marketplace business with his partner Connor with just $5,000 and grew that business to 12 million, in which ultimately they exited in 2019. With all that being said, we found it would be a perfect time to introduce Nathan and his experience to the community here. And we put together an amazing episode around a topic that is near and dear to many that are getting into software as a service, a business model, SaaS, or those that have been in it and now are getting ready to make the pivot to prepare to sell their business. So the name of this episode is How to Build a Sellable Business from Day One. And in this episode, we're going to dive into 3 talking points that Nathan has put together for us. The first one is the power of a bookkeeper and CPA. Then we're going to lead into the foundation of bringing on the right key hires. And lastly, we're going to just call out the elephant in the room, and that is the truth about exiting the business. Nathan, it's great to have you here, man. For those in our audience who might not know you yet, could you share a little bit about you and your journey?
Yeah, Jonathan, thanks for having me. And I'm a longtime entrepreneur. I've been building businesses since I was 20. I've never had a real job. I was a big Amazon seller. I sold 25 million on Amazon from 2008 to 2015. We talked about Free Up. I started that in my condo at the time with my business partner, Connor Gillivan. We started that with $5,000, started offering VAs and freelancers to different online businesses. And that company blew up. We learned a lot. We ended up selling it to a company called The Hoff that a lot of you guys might be familiar with in 2019. And that was a life-changing exit for us. And since then, we've been building different companies. We have a portfolio of companies, plus our media company that helps promote our personal brands. We have EcomBalance, EcomBalance, which is our 2 bookkeeping brands, one for SaaS and agencies, one for e-commerce companies. We have Outsource School, which I did a presentation here before, all about how to hire really great VAs and my hiring process that you can plug into your business. And our newest venture is Trio SEO, an SEO business that pumps out high quality content that gets high intent buyers to your website. So we have a lot going on, but we build businesses that are sellable, even if we don't want to sell them, but we build them to be sellable from day one. We learned a ton going through our exit. We did a lot right, a few things that we would do differently, and we'll talk all about that. And I'm excited to go through it.
Man, Nathan, I appreciate you just right out the gate, sharing more than what we initially spoke about, which was EcomBalance. And it builds a lot of context for the audience because, you can have one business and be really good at it and give a great service. But really, when you have multiple businesses under your umbrella that you've created from scratch, optimized, developed, and have grown, that's where the true art and expertise comes in. In your journey, building these different businesses at different times, could you share what has always kind of kept you motivated or eye on the prize?
I find it fun. I mean, obviously I'm 35 now. I have a 9-month-old kid. Like, my life's a lot different than it was when I was in my 20s. But when I was in my 20s, I was hustling. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I did Amazon. I tried textbooks, got into baby products, started a freelance marketplace. Like, you kind of never really know what's next. Like, I never thought I'd be running a bookkeeping business. I'm not a bookkeeper, although I have a great team of bookkeepers. So I love trying new things. I love putting really smart people in place that makes my life easy and allows me to do what I want when I want and just have that life and financial freedom that goes with being an entrepreneur when you set up your businesses the right way.
Keyword, right? When you set them up the right way. And, in your journey, I'm sure you've made a lot of friends and a lot of relationships. Could you share a little bit about, obviously without mentioning names, right? Or business names and stuff like that. But could you share a little bit about what you've noticed early on with those that don't do the proper setup? Maybe they rush it, or they're just assuming it'll care for itself.
Yeah, they get stressed out, they get burnt out. It becomes a lot less fun. It becomes a headache. And business is hard. You got to remember, like most businesses fail. You're only going to end your business in one way. Either you're going to run into the ground, you're going to exit it, you're going to pass it off to your kids. There's only so many ways that a business goes, and very few businesses last 5 years, 10 years. Like Free Up, for example, is about to hit year 10. We sold it at year 4, but like to me, that's incredible just because how many businesses really last that long. So having an exit plan in mind, looking into the future like that and setting it up correctly from day one is just so important. And I think the entrepreneurs that approach as a game where they know businesses fail, they're not afraid to do trial and error, but they know the basics, the things that are simple, the things that don't that talked about enough, like hiring and bookkeeping and diversified marketing channels, SEO. Those are the people that have success in business. It's the people that are always chasing the shiny object syndromes or focused on the wrong things. Those are the people that really struggle.
Powerful that you say that. And, there's several excuses that maybe those folks make, right? Like, I didn't have the network, or I didn't know where to look, or this wasn't available back when I was getting started. You going through that same path, you either took the clues or you knew where to find the answers. How did you go about educating yourself as an entrepreneur to always have that roadmap that was always ever living, putting you in the right way?
I surround myself with really smart people. I mean, people like my lawyers, my accountants, which we'll talk about, like different advisors and stuff that I've just had in the past. Being able to run ideas by people and just networking. Like one of the biggest changes I made when I was running my Amazon business, very secluded. I didn't really talk to other entrepreneurs. I was scared people would steal my ideas. And when I started Free Up, I started doing networking calls every single month and getting to know a lot of great people. And you never really know how those turns out. Some of them turn into clients, some of them turn into partners. Other people share advice that might not apply right away, but comes into play down the line. And when we were going through our exit, we were able to go to people who had been there and done that before and ask them questions, get their advice, figure out what they would do differently. And now we try to pass that forward to people who might have their own exit for the first time in the future. So I'm super just humbled by the community around me and people that have helped. And there's also just no substitute for trial and error. With our first Amazon business, we made every mistake you could possibly make, from bad hiring to ignoring bookkeeping, you name it. So a lot of things we do now that we believe in and we won't start a business without are all things that we did poorly early on and learned very hard lessons from.
Wow. So, if I'm listening to this as maybe I'm out and about on a jog, I'm in my car, I'm trying to, as an agency or a software as a service business, I'm maybe tuning into this to learn different clues and successes that other entrepreneurs have. Right. To your point, it's surrounding yourself with smart people and those networks. Um, Maybe I have a question as I'm tuning into this on what do you enjoy consuming that is business related that always pushes you forward? Are you more of an, audio book? Are you more traditional reading paper? Are you a podcast listener? What really do you use maybe as a business hobby or a entrepreneur hobby to kind of level you up each time on the run?
Yeah, I'm definitely an audiobook and podcast person. I mean, I I don't do a lot of music and stuff while I'm working out. I'm always listening to an audiobook, always listening to a podcast. Same thing. I have two dogs. Whenever I'm walking the dogs and enjoying the Denver weather, I always have something in my earpods. So that's kind of my style. I also have a 9 month old, so hard to find time to sit down and read a book during that. But that's my go-to.
Well, congratulations, right, on getting your family moving and grooving. It sounds like, you've had the experience of developing businesses and now you're on to the next big venture. And I believe like, you know, I've listened to podcasts, I've hosted some, you've done the same. It's outside of business and life that matters, right? You just finding what makes you happy personally, and family seems to be a big part of what your journey is consisting of. Do you mind sharing a little bit about, as we start pivoting in here, to operating a business in 2024, right? Operating a business in 2024 with so many influencers, like you mentioned, shiny objects, wealth of information, easily accessible mentors and coaches. With someone that is getting started with building their marketing agency, their software business, um, is there maybe three tips or three ideas that they should keep in the front of their mind as they're starting this journey?
Yeah, so to me, sales just cures everything. Go out there, prove that you can sell it. Scale sales is a good skill to master. We've never lived in a better time to just test things out without investing a lot of time or a lot of money into them. I don't spend a year working on something and then try to sell it. I don't put $100,000 into something and then try to sell it. I try to get it out, minimum viable product, as quickly as possible. Prove that there's a market for it. If there's no market for it, I'm pivoting and I'm moving on to something else. I created a SOP building software that had no market, but I figured it out pretty quickly before I spent a lot of time and money into it. Vice versa, I gave away 2 free months of bookkeeping to our initial clients for accounts balance, figured out there was a market. We did market research as well, but if I couldn't give away 2 free months of bookkeeping or keep those initial clients after that, then you don't have a business. So get it out there, minimum viable product. If you sell, you can always add to it, make improvements, invest in software, whatever it is. But just get it out to market as quickly as possible. Number two, which we'll talk about, is just the skill of hiring. It's a number one thing you have to learn as an entrepreneur. Hiring just makes everything else easier. You can't master everything as an entrepreneur. If you're bad at hiring, it's always going to hold you back. Turnover crushes small businesses if you can't keep people around, and vice versa. Great hiring becomes addicting. It becomes a way for you to fix a lot of problems, put out a lot of fires, get people in there smarter than you that can grow your company. And hiring it is just a number one skill that they don't teach in school, but it's something you have to master as an entrepreneur. And the last thing that I just believe in is it's never been a better time to take even less risk. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I start a lot of companies. I don't think I'm a very big risk taker. Most of my companies I start with $5,000, $10,000. If they fail, they fail. I'm not going homeless. And you can take more risks when you're younger. When I was in my 20s, I could always go out and get a real job. I didn't have a family. I didn't have that many bills. Like now that I'm 35, I'm probably taking even less risk than I did before, although I went through an exit. So you have stuff to play with. But when you're young, take risks, try things, fail a bit. You're going to be okay. And you never know what opportunities you're going to come through just by doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate you really, diving in organized and deep on that. I feel like that was perfectly positioned where the priority needs to be aligned with the end goal. And for whoever's listening right now, with us between their ears, those are nuggets that you probably have to read 3 or 4 books to really get an understanding of it. And I want to get us right into now some of the more important parts of what you mentioned and how we start bringing it into action. So, the first bullet point here is all around the power of a bookkeeper and a CPA. Could you open us up and really tell us in the audience, when hiring a bookkeeper, when hiring a CPA, everyone's going to say certain things about their experience, their brand, the uniqueness of doing business with them. Could you share a little bit of maybe a myth buster or something that, look, you really need to look at these things first before you take anyone's word for anything. And I think that should help us build that foundation, like that validation, that verification. Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, just high level. If you think of accounting, it's really broken down into 3 parts. So you've got your bookkeeper, they're working in QuickBooks or reconciling accounts. They're providing you clean, easy to read reports every single month. And they're there for really 2 things. One is decision making, because you're making decisions based on what the numbers are telling you in the reports. And they're there to make tax season less stressful because you're going to pass those books over to your CPA and they're going to file your taxes. And that's what they're there for. Next, you got your CPA, your tax person. They're there to help you with what entity you should be. Should you be an S Corp? Should you be a C Corp? What states you should register in? What sales tax you're responsible for? They're there to file your taxes. They're there for tax strategy. They can even help with stuff like retirement accounts. I have retirement accounts for my different companies that allows me to put money away and either defer taxes or pay no taxes depending on how you structure it. So That's incredibly important, having that tax piece. And then the CFO is that third piece that doesn't really come into play for most businesses until they get over $5 million a year, but they're kind of like a business coach. They're there to help project sales, project expenses, project cash in the future, and manage your cash flow. They're there to help you take the numbers and make business decisions, and help you along those lines with business strategy. So those are kind of the three pieces. And you need a CPA. Like if you don't have one, reach out to me. I don't do tax, but I have a great CPA I've worked with for 10 plus years. Shoot me an email, Nathan at EcomBalance.com. Happy to make an introduction. You need a good CPA. If you're running lots of companies, have one CPA used for everyone. They can help you with your personal taxes, regular taxes. And I learned from my Amazon business not to start a business without a bookkeeper. Whenever I start a company, before I prove the idea, before I'm profitable, I hire a bookkeeper. It's cheap, especially when you're young and you're small. But have a bookkeeper from day one. It's going to avoid the hassle down the line of having to catch everything up, and it's going to allow you to make good decisions from the beginning. So that's kind of the mentality. You need a bookkeeper. You need an overall CPA. CFO can come into later. And the biggest myth is that you should be doing your own bookkeeping for the initial times of your companies. I see so many entrepreneurs that say, hey, first year, I'm going to do my own bookkeeping. Until I get to this revenue amount, I'm going to do my own bookkeeping. When you're creating a business plan, when you're putting aside money to create a business, because you're probably not starting a business with zero, you're probably starting it with at least a few $1,000s. Bookkeeping has to be a necessary expense there. It's something you shouldn't be doing. It's a waste of your time. Most entrepreneurs are not good at bookkeeping to begin with. So any work you do, you're just going to have to pay to redo later. And where you spend your time as an entrepreneur matters. If you're spending your time in the wrong place, that can be a difference between success and failure. Go do sales, go do marketing, go do things that are going to increase revenue, not stuff like bookkeeping. Don't go out and take a QuickBooks class. Don't spend time on YouTube trying to learn QuickBooks online. That is a complete waste of time. Put an expert in place from day one, and that's just going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah. And for folks that would say, I'm going to Google one and I'll find one. In today's age, how important is a niche driven bookkeeper CPA? Does it matter? What is your thought? Because there's bookkeepers and CPAs all over, right? I mean, just in one little area, there's probably a bunch. But how does the niche part and the expertise really come into play?
Yeah, I mean, it matters. You don't want to be, if you're a real estate investor, you don't want to be the first real estate investor that your CPA has worked with. Same thing for a SaaS. If your CPA is old school and they don't really understand online businesses, they don't understand software, probably not the right person. I mean, my CPA doesn't have one niche, but he has experience with e-commerce. He has experience with the online businesses. He knows that space. And I remember for my Amazon business back in the day, I found a local CPA, and he had no idea what was going on with e-commerce. He didn't understand Amazon. He didn't understand the fees that were being charged. And that was a disaster. He wasted so much time just trying to figure it out himself. So don't be the first person in your niche for your CPA. Same thing with your bookkeeper. Make sure they have other clients in the same space. That's only going to help you. They're going to know the ins and outs, and they're just going to know best practices. They're going to know what other people are doing that are bigger than you, that are more advanced, that have been in there for a while, and that's only going to help you.
Awesome. And when it comes to um, the bookkeeper, the bookkeeping process, responsibilities, things that you should assume, right? Some sort of checklist, or like these are things you should always keep in mind, whether it's checking this part or that part every 30 days. Like, how can someone, like you had mentioned before, an entrepreneur, how could they be involved without being deep in the trenches? What are some ways that it's beneficial to them to be aware and part of the process?
So you have to learn how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. That is a basic business skill, life skill that you need to learn. If you ever want to buy stocks or invest in a company or run a business, you have to learn how to use those three. You can go to the Accounts Balance blog or the Accounts Balance YouTube channel. We have a lot of resources there. You can find all this stuff online. Like it's pretty standard, and it's pretty standard industry specific and from company to company. And another great way is just go through your own every single month. Have a meeting in your calendar every single month where you go through income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. you go through them, anything you don't know, you ask your bookkeeper questions. That's how you're going to really learn to master these. So, well, you don't need to know how to log into QuickBooks and reconcile stuff in QuickBooks. You do need to know how to read these through reports. And then it becomes all about decision making, because when you understand these three reports, you're making decisions based on what the numbers are telling you. Hey, my profit margin has gone down 3 months in a row. I need to increase prices or decrease expenses. Those are the decisions that you have to make when you understand the numbers. And the people that just ignore those reports or don't look at them every single month, or just look at them at the end of the year, or they only look at the income statement, they don't look at the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, those are the entrepreneurs that really struggle. They're just guessing. They're making decisions based on gut, and you have to have that foundation as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is moving in all cylinders right now, and right, just for the sake of time here, you you pointed us to the blog, the Accounts Balance blog, and you mentioned that you have some resources there. We're going to include on the bottom of the description here a link to that that guide for the how to read the different types of statements. Um, is there something else, or something else when it comes to like digital marketing agencies, when it comes to software as a service businesses? Let's just say the scenario is somebody has, you know, 75 monthly recurring revenue accounts, right? And they feel like they're just breaking even. And we talk about like maybe like they're going off a gut, maybe they're going off of money in, money out, very basic metrics. How do they pivot to now get structured on this? And can the numbers be a vanity metric to make you think you're doing good, but really you may not even be doing good?
Yeah, I mean, we live in the age of vanity metrics, right? Where people are seven-figure entrepreneurs, but what are you actually making profit? What are you actually paying yourself? That's the stuff that matters. And even to take a step further, you might have 75 clients, but you want your book segmented. Maybe some of them are PPC clients, some of them are SEO clients. Where are you actually making the money? What is the most profitable for your business? And knowing that stuff is important. And you can make decisions. Hey, I got to charge more for PPC, or it's not worth it for me to do PPC because I'm making way more money on SEO. So those are the decisions you can make when you have a clean chart of accounts, you have clean reports, and you're going through them every single month. That becomes important. And the things you care about as an entrepreneur are your profit margin, your gross profit, your net profit. Those are the things that actually matter at the end of the day. How much are you actually making, and how much are you spending to actually make that money? So make sure you're focused on the right things. Make sure you work with a bookkeeper that puts it easy, that speaks entrepreneur, speaks agency, speaks SaaS. That's the kind of relationship that you want to have, and that's where you need to be looking at every single month. And to kind of bring this back to exiting, like if you ever want investments in your company, if you ever want funding in your company, if you ever want to sell a company, you have to have clean books. There's no way around it. Those opportunities are not going to happen if you don't have clean books. And when you're ready for funding or you're ready for a sale, that's the worst time to start thinking about bookkeeping, because you're going to have to pay someone to go all the way back and fix everything. That is not a fast process. And our due diligence was 6 months long. It was the most stressful 6 months of my life. And that's with clean, immaculate books. If we didn't have clean books, it would have taken way longer, or the whole deal would have fallen through. And just building trust with your buyers. Like the buyers asked us lots of questions on our business. And when they got into the books, everything we told them matched everything that was in the books. If they get in the books, and I've seen this so many times, it doesn't match what you initially told them, all the trust is lost, and they're not buying that company or investing in that company.
Amazing. And I think, you know, that being the example that you mentioned here with what you went through personally, like you had immaculate books, you had everything where it needed to be, and still it was a deep dive and a very stressful process. Um, you know, and you brought up an aha moment for me where, you know, when we come across the backtracking of, oh, wow, now I want to do this right, spending the time to go 6 months back. I mean, to remember every service you purchased, every receipt, it's a lot of work. And then that record keeping in its case. I want to pivot now. Now that we get the foundation for the audience with, you know, the power of bookkeeping, power of a CPA, understanding on how running a marketing agency, a software as a service company, these keep the lights on essentially and keep your pockets full. Um, let's get into that foundation of the right key hires. And we could go many different angles, I'm sure. But what is the right key hires mean to you with your experience and what you see with your clients in their day to day?
So we don't start a company without hiring an operator from day one. And this is an advanced entrepreneurial tactic. I was not like this when I was younger, but when you have multiple businesses, I can't be in the operations of all these companies. I need to hire someone that can come in, that can step in as a CEO or whatever their title is, and hit the ground running. Someone who's been there and done that before. A good example is I'm not a bookkeeper. So to start a bookkeeping business, I need a controller with a lot of experience that's ran a bookkeeping business before. And we found Shelly, who has 30 years of experience, ran her own bookkeeping agency. She doesn't like doing the sales. She doesn't like doing the marketing. So we're able to support her with that stuff and build the team around her. And then me as the founder, I come in and I say, hey, how can I support you? Do you need more people? Can I help you with a problem? How do we need more clients? Do we need to hold off on clients? Those are the kind of conversations that we're having to support the operators. And we do this for all our companies. Steven Snyder is our operator for Truro SEO. If we're starting a business, if we love an idea and we're itching to start it, we hold off until we find that right operator in place and we put them in position to succeed. And we usually structure it so they have a fixed price plus some percentage of profit share, plus some percentage if the company does sell down the line. And it's really a partnership at the end of the day. So those are the kind of people we look for. And then a step past that is the leadership team. Your initial hires are so key in every business you start. You want your initial hires to believe in the business, believe in the culture, be there long term. Again, turnover just crushes businesses. And we want them to set the tone for any new hire that you bring in. If you're constantly turning over leadership, every new hire you bring in has no idea what's going on. They're getting different messages. The longevity is just not there. So the first 4 hires we made at FreeUp were so key. They were there for all 4 years we were there. They're still there today. Every new hire that we would make, we didn't have to worry about because the new people would set expectation, hold them to those expectations, let us know if they weren't A players so we could find someone else. And those operators and those key players are just so important for any company you start.
Yeah, and just hearing the confidence, the energy that you bring. I mean, you feel it. You feel that, Nathan. You've set the example. You've been through it, and it also feels like you've had your learning curves as well. With those learning curves that you've had in your years of starting businesses, growing them, selling them, and coaching others, how do you define an A player today? How do you really? What are some of the characteristics, or maybe what are some of the uh, maybe litmus test approaches that you need to take to really attract and then vet them out a bit?
So we focus on skill, attitude, and communication. We want someone who can communicate at a high level, get on the same page quickly, speak up if they have ideas or feedback or if problems arise. We want people with the right attitude, people who care about growth and building and learning, and they want to be a part of something. They're not just focused on money. And obviously the skill. We want to hire someone who's been there before, has the experience, has worked for a SaaS, worked for an agency, led teams, managed people, wants to manage people. Those are the kind of people we look for. As for our operators, we want people with the same values as us that are going to treat clients well, have that customer experience or customer service mindset where you're always trying to serve people. Same thing with your team, be able to treat people well there. Are ethical, that speak up, take ownership if you make mistakes. I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but we want people that speak up and try to make it right. If I make a mistake, I'm always trying to make it right, whatever that will take. And that's the kind of person we look for. They have that entrepreneurial spirit, but maybe they don't want to take risks or they don't like parts of it like sales and marketing. And they're good at stuff we're bad at, vice versa. Most entrepreneurs are not very organized. We like to hire people who are super organized and love building systems, love building process. So that's what we really look for in our A players, but also our operators.
Awesome. And when it comes to finding those A players, where have you, or what kind of advice do you give around networking or looking for? Is it like maybe putting it up on a job board site? Is it maybe going on LinkedIn? Is it going in a group? Could you give us some insight about finding that talent?
Yeah, so there's no correct or wrong place. We found Shelia on ZipRecruiter. We found Steven through networking on LinkedIn. You can find operators by posting jobs on Upwork. Like all these exist, but the key is really to network and talk to as many people and know what you're looking for. And we'll start off with, hey, like we got this great idea, like we're looking for an operator. And if someone expresses interest, then we dive into it. Or when we talk to someone that's in the space, hey, we're thinking of starting an SEO business. If you know anyone that would be a good operator, let me know. And maybe they worked with someone before and they were really good, but what for whatever reason it ended. Like people have those referrals, and you want to get to know these people personally, get to know what they care about, what motivates them, what they're looking for, and really have those conversations. Right now, we're looking for an operator for our media company that we're growing, that we use to promote Connor Gillivan and my personal brands and really drive traffic to our different businesses. And so we've just been networking with different people. People have different skill sets, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, and we're trying to figure out that right person. And sometimes you don't really know what that perfect person looks like until you talk to a lot of people. So it's all about consistently having those conversations and then pulling the trigger when you finally have the right one.
Yeah. And it hits home in many different ways. And maybe if someone's listening in here, and they're trying to understand, okay, finding the A players is going to take time. It is knowing, like you had mentioned, what you need. Like that was the biggest takeaway for me right now. Like what is it that you need done? What is your plan? Without your plan, you can't fill seats and have people contribute with their superpowers. So I appreciate you really going in depth on that and sharing it from experience, but also from some of the best practices that you help others with. Right now, with the amount of time that we've been at this together, we've covered a lot of different parts from mindset, motivation, personal growth, the power of having the bookkeeper and the CPA. We just got done chatting about here the foundation of the right key hires, attracting them, looking for them, putting people in the right seats for the right actions. All of that, if done with the intention and the right amount of time and support, should prepare you to exit your business. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I mean, selling a company is all about you need clean financials, a good team, leadership team. You need strong SOPs, which we didn't really talk about, but really just processes for every part of your business, from sales calls to marketing to billing. You need that as well. And then there's other things that people look for. They like companies that are reoccurring revenue. They like companies that have diverse marketing, where you're not getting all your clients from one channel. They like diversity in clients, where one client isn't 80% of your revenue, because that's very risky for someone buying. So those are things that people look for. Obviously, IP or anything proprietary to your business. But the foundation of good hires, good processes, good financials, good diverse marketing, that's a pretty big standard that makes not only a sellable business, but a strong business in general.
Yeah, and all of that you've shared there, how does that relate to somebody who has a marketing agency that they're transitioning into the software as a service business model? And then those that have a software as a service business model, maybe they have, you know, $15,000 in monthly recurring revenue, $30,000 recurring revenue. How does that exit change, or what should they have in mind if they have all of what you mentioned in place, but now don't have the experience like you do with your exit? Like, how could you elevate those that are on the success track?
Yeah, so I mean, a few things to know. I mean, first of all, again, networking is a great way to find potential buyers to your business. You can always hire a broker, but like for us, we sold it to one of our clients. So you never know who's looking to buy a business, who's looking to buy a business in your niche. Having those conversations and being open to them, you never know what you're going to come across. Some things I didn't know until going through our exit. So most people that buy companies, they want the founder to stay on afterwards. Connor and I actually had an agreement that we were not willing to do that. We would not sell a company if we had to stay on as employees. We don't want to be employees. We want to move on to our next thing. So something to keep in mind. I think almost every situation I've seen where people try to get the founders to stay on, the founders hate it after a certain period of time. But just something to be aware of it and something to know before you actually go through an exit. Make sure you sell it to really good people. This was a big thing for us. We did a lot of due diligence on the buyers. This was one of the best advice that we got going through our exit, talking to other people. we didn't want to end up in a lawsuit down the line or arguing for years or not getting paid or whatever it was. We want to sell it to good people that everyone has good intentions. You never know what's going to happen after the sale, but people that were going to honor their word, treat our clients right, treat our reputation right, treat our team right. Those are the kind of people that we want to sell to. And then there's always an earnout component. If you sell your business for $10 million, you're probably not getting a check for $10 million up front. Usually it's half up front, a third up front, and the rest is earnout. And how you structure those earnouts matter. You don't want those earnouts to be dependent on this company coming in and blowing up the business, because that might not happen. They might run the business into the ground. So you want something that's fair, something that is some kind of like percentage of revenue over time, where even if they only do 80% of what you did, you're still getting most of your earnout. How you structure the earnout matters. Talk to an advisor, talk to a CPA, talk to a lawyer about the best way to structure those. But I've seen a lot of people get screwed with the earnouts because they structured it so they would only get the earnout if the business kept growing, and the people taking over did a poor job. So just the things to kind of keep in mind: due diligence, super long. Make sure you have a lawyer to help you, a CPA that helps you through the process. How you structure your business and your taxes and all of that matters as well. Usually going through an exit is the most money you'll get in your lifetime. So make sure you have a good tax strategy around that.
Yeah, thank you. That was a little like, that's some boardroom talk, right? That's some close relationship talk with someone that maybe that's been there, done that, and they're just giving you that direct advice. And our audience is appreciative of that. I appreciate you sharing that part of your experience that thankfully it sounds like you ironed out very well, because you had a great network and great knowledge base around that. And I think, those two components around the staying part of the business after the sale, and then obviously getting paid appropriately after you leave the business, that's the whole purpose of selling the business. And based on how you shared it, and maybe some horror stories that are out there, some people actually just assume that everyone has them in their best interest, and it sounds like you took control of it and made it your best interest. So I appreciate you just diving deep in. And Nathan, man, it's, I got to talk with you briefly before we did the episode, but there's nothing like seeing you game on, man, and really being passionate when you have the audience listening in and learning and really wanting to know what's in your head. And I'm grateful for that. Appreciate you sharing and really just being an open book on your journey, on how others can maybe avoid any potential mistakes that may come across the line that they don't find on a blog or a YouTube channel, right? That public information, and really being a contributor in our Go High Level community. For those that are just tuning in now, we just had an amazing interview here with Nathan Hirsch, founder of EcomBalance, a firm that works with marketing agencies, software companies to manage their books, manage their accounting, their finances of their business. And if you go back on this episode, you're going to learn many nuggets. Nathan, you've been a high-level customer of ours for some time. Could you share a little bit of why you're with us and what you believe is a driving factor and how we contribute to that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to my clients, right? And I've never heard anyone say something bad about Go High Level. And that's the truth. And I've been doing this for a long time. You hear pros and cons of every single software. So I'm a big proponent of client feedback. Hopefully people say good things about my companies and we get referrals based off that. And I always want to partner with people and with companies that have that same customer mentality. I know you guys are always listening to feedback. You're always trying to improve your software. You're always listening to what the customer needs and wants are. And that's the same way that I like to do business. So I feel like you guys have the same values that we do. And that's why we keep coming back and keep wanting to do more stuff together.
Amazing. Nathan, any closing remarks before we end this episode?
Yeah, I got two things for you. One, if you go to nathanhirsch.com/exit, I have a full exit blueprint of everything we learned going through our due diligence. You can grab that. And if you go to accountsbalance.com, if you're looking for a monthly bookkeeper, mention Go High Level, mention the Spotlight, and you'll get 2 free months of bookkeeping.
You heard it direct from Nathan Hirsch. Nathan, thank you so much for hanging out with us. To our audience, we always appreciate your ears, your attention. And until next time, we have more and more coming your way. Thank you. Have a great day.